You all know my name is Varun Gupta, and as my name should imply, I am of Indian descent. That is why teaching a series on ancient India might be my most interesting endeavor throughout this entire online course. As you should already know from my last series, ancient Mesopotamia is older than ancient India because the former is 7,500 years old, but how old is the latter? According to the Smithsonian textbook, ancient India began back in 3300 BC, but according to the high school textbook, ancient India began back in 2600 BC. Finally, for the first time in our history course, we have a contradiction between the two books. Which is right? How can one book be so wrong by a factor of 700 years? What sort of dating methods might have led the authors of these books to conclude different ages for Indian civilization? This, my students, is the part where history appears to be less of a social science and more like one of the humanities. We have an open question to which all answers are valid, even if the social scientific side of history someday shows that most of them are wrong. Now, this is just my personal historical opinion, but I think that the authors of the high school textbook were simply unable to find earlier sources of ancient Indian civilization, which the authors of the Smithsonian textbook might very well have been able to discover. I don't think that the high school textbook would lie just to make history simpler for high schoolers, and I know for certain that the authors of the high school textbook were PhDs in history, not high school history teachers. However, I think that after this video, you guys should discuss with each other your own thoughts about why these history textbooks contradict each other. For now, let's just give a conservative estimate and say that India is at least 4,600 years old, thereby allowing ourselves to say that India is 4,600 to 5,300 years old. Whichever date is correct, India is definitely younger than Mesopotamia. Upon further research into Indian history, I will discover the age of the Vedas, the tetralogy of books that defines the Hindu religion. I said before that Hinduism is simply the oldest organized religion because Mesopotamian paganism is much older. In the next lecture of History 01, I will tell you the age of the Vedas, as well as the age of the Bhagavad Gita, the second half of Hindu canonical scriptures. Join me for Psychology 01, in which I give my first lecture on the mental experiences of thought as beliefs.